What's up, guys? Just want to do a quick video on Gen 5 heroes. I knew they came out about the same time we were getting our Gen 4 heroes, and I wanted to know what they were, so I created an account on server 1. And let me just show you what these guys are. So first we have Vivien, who is the archer. And I'll go through the conquest, even though I don't really like conquest. So for the conquest, Vivien fires a coin bullet at the enemy back row, heroes first, dealing attack 180%, which goes up to 252%, area effect damage, and reducing the target's attack speed by 50% for 2 seconds. This actually seems like a pretty good arena skill. Next one, Luck Can Turn the Tide. Vivien fires at an enemy, heroes first, dealing up to 140% damage with a 50% chance of dealing double damage. Also a pretty good skill, actually. And last one is Vivien unleashes a devastating hail of massive coin bullets, dealing attack up to 49%, damage per second to enemies within the range for 3 seconds. Alright, now the real skills that matter, let's go to Expedition. The first skill is that Vivien is a patient commander willing to wait for just the right moment to strike. All squad attack increase enemy damage taken by 25%. So it's enemy damage taken up by 25%. That is a good skill. Probably being a great skill for Bear too. But very good skill there. The middle skill is that Vivien's sharp focus exposes enemy weaknesses, granting all squad attack 20% up to 100%. Extra damage after every 4 attacks, and then causes the target to receive 15% extra damage for its next attack received. So this is pretty impressive. This is going to go up to 100% for every 4th attack. So that's about a 25% increase. And then the next attack is going to go up extra damage by 15%. So that's kind of more than your typical 20% increase. And that's also for all squads. So that's actually a really good skill right there. And finally, we have extra damage up by 60%. Vivien equips her archers with custom coin traps, dealing 60% extra damage to all enemies on the next attack of every 4 attacks. So that one's about a 15% increase of damage up. So she seems like a pretty solid hero. Now, if they continue to do the same thing, I don't know what the widgets are, but if they continue to do the same thing of like going from offense to defense, this should be a defensive widget because Rosa is an offensive widget. All right, next we have Thrud. Thrud is the cavalry for this one. She should be an offensive widget, given that Margot is a defensive widget. So let's go through her conquest real quick, or arena. Thrud hurls 5 axes at random targets, dealing attack up to 84% area of effect damage. So that's kind of a good skill, because that's one that, smashes everybody around, not just one person. Next one is Thrud throws a spinning axe, dealing up to 70% damage to enemies within a range and stunning them for 1.5 seconds. It's pretty good. And then finally, Thrud lets out a primal howl, increasing all squads' attack by 5%. Not really that great in my opinion. All right, now let's look at the real deal stuff, Expedition. The first one is Thrud's Battle Fever inspires her infantry and archers, reducing their damage taken by 15% and increasing their damage dealt by 15%. So that's just for infantry and archers. It's a pretty good skill. About 30% in total for, damage up and damage down. And, in my opinion, damage up and damage down is better than attack or lethality. All right, middle one is no plans, no finesse, just brutally charged into battle. Thrud's cavalry has a 20% chance of dealing up to 100% extra damage to all enemies on attack. So, that's pretty much... 20 times 100, that's 20% damage for all enemies on attack. So, extra damage up, that's pretty good, 20%. And then finally, we have Ancestral Spirits Guide the Brave to Valhalla. For every 4 attacks made by cavalry, all squads' damage dealt is increased by 25%, and damage taken is reduced by 25% for 2 turns. That's a pretty good skill. I'd say that's probably her best skill out of all of them. Yeah, I think that's the best skill out of them. So those 2, just so you know, are pretty much dead on, just like Whiteout Survival. Now, the last one is our infantry, Long Fei. Now, this one is what should have been Hector, and Hector is often regarded to as an OP infantry guy. So let's go through his stats real quick on Conquest. So Long Fei becomes one with the battlefield upon drinking his signature ambrosia, gaining 100% attack speed and immunity to control effects for 4 seconds. So it looks like it stops anybody from debuffing you or doing any kind of spells or whatever. It's not really that great in my opinion. The overconfidence of Long Fei's enemies is their weakness. Damage taken by Long Fei reduces by 60% when under 50% health. It's kind of similar to that one that Amadeus has. Don't think it's really that great either. And then finally, the warriors of the ancient way have taught Long Fei many secrets to survival. Long Fei gains 48% attack when under 50% health. Yeah, I really don't think that's great either. All right, now let's talk about Expedition. So this first one, Long Fei's courage in the teeth of the enemy points the way toward the warrior within, granting a 40% chance of reducing damage taken by all squads by 50%. So that's pretty much 20% down damage, you know, kind of your typical one. That last one is all warfare is based on deception. Long Fei's war wisdom is ingrained in his soldiers, granting all soldiers attacks a 25% chance of dealing 200% damage. So I like that one a lot. Damage up by 50% essentially. Now this center one is the one that they changed. This is the one they changed, and I think this is the one that makes him a much worse hero than before. This is just giving you a defense up by 25% for all squads. You know, it's a solid little skill, but let's look at what made Hector special. What made him special was pretty much this center one. Hector's boost infantry troops damage dealt by 200% and marksman damage dealt by 50%. This effect decreases by 80% when each attack and is removed after the 5th attack. So he was dealing with an insane amount of damage by infantry and marksmen. And this seems kind of like Alcar, except for Alcar is doing 100% and never goes away. So anyways, that's kind of what's going on with those. Let's go back to KINGSHOT for a second. And I think that they actually made him a much worse hero. Now, I've never played Whiteout Survival, but I think that this is the center one versus the other one. That is not as good of a skill. And now the question is Alcar actually a much better one? Because he's got those skills that actually seem very similar to what he used to have, which is like infantry damage up 100% but never goes away, and cavalry and archer damage up 10%. So anyway, that's a sneak peek to the Gen 5 heroes. And just real quick with widgets, likely, can't say for certain, but the marksman will be a defensive widget. Thrud will be an offense